What's up, Barnhill family, and welcome back to your home for all things combat sports.
Yo.
Guys, we have a great signature Barnhill Brothers deep dive for you today. This one, we're going deep on the main event, Umar Nurmagomedov versus Song Yadong, happening this weekend in China. Very early start time for those of us in the United States. I think 5 a.m. Central Time is the main card here in Houston, if I'm not mistaken. But as always, Nick and I are going to look at this from a striking, a grappling, and an intangibles perspective and dissect what each fighter needs to do to win and where they may be able to exploit their opponent. And we always, guys, start with the striking. So, Nick, let's start there. But before we do that, let's look at the tail of the tape just a little bit as far as the striking is concerned. Now, when you look at Umar Nurmagomedov, you immediately think that he's the faster, more dynamic striker, but actually landing just 3.8 significant strikes per minute compared to 4.34 for Song Yadong. So Song's got a little bit higher output, and he throws with a little heavier power each time he throws. When you look at the accuracy, it is leaning towards Umar at 56% to 43%, and the striking defense is another thing that pops out to me. Umar's is phenomenal at 61%, and Song Yadong's is a very respectable 55% as well. So while these guys do have a lot of difference in their striking style, right, they both have a lot of success defending strikes, landing power strikes, and, implementing their game plans against their opponent. Now, for me, the range is going to play a big factor here because Umar's really dynamic. I think he's got a better depth of a bigger toolbox, if you will, of what strikes he's able to land. He's got high kicks, he's got low kicks, he's got all kinds of punches from different ranges. He'll start a combination way out of range and end up almost in a body lock by the time the combination's over. Song's a little bit more of a plotter. He's going to plant his feet and he's going to throw big power shots, and he likes to land the boxing and he likes to hurt his opponents. How do you see this one playing out in the striking?
Yes, so statistically, these guys kind of wind up right around each other, but they couldn't have different styles, more different styles. Umar is very good with his single shot attacks, and that's really a hard thing to be good at in MMA. Usually when you want to land something, you got to throw a couple of punches or a couple of feints in there before you can put something up there. But he's really good at putting that lead kick up right towards your face. Song Yadong isn't the tallest opponent that he's going to be facing, so I would watch out for that lead head kick because Umar's really good at that. And then Song is also very good at throwing punches and bunches and closing distance. He kind of puts pressure on the entire time. And it's not like he's, sporadic and moves too much. He just walks you down. Now, Umar is going to have to utilize every bit of the cage, but he's really good at keeping his long distance. He prefers to fight at a kickboxing range, and he's very good there. But what he's really good at is timing the blitzes that come from fighters like Song Yadong, and then just making sure that they are closing distance and getting hit with something down the middle. Most of the time it's straight punches, and like I said, occasionally he'll end that combination with a kick of some sort, but he doesn't really push and apply pressure to his opponents. He waits for them to come in, and he's either going to attack with good long strikes, or he changes levels and goes into the grappling. But I know we're not getting into grappling yet. So when it comes to the striking, Song Yadong does something very similar to what Mario Batista did against Umar and actually had success. We've seen Umar dropped in a couple of his UFC fights, and Mario Batista was one of them. I would say at the hands, but it wasn't the hands, it was the knee.
At the knee of Mario Batista.
At the knee of Mario Batista. And I noticed that that's a tendency that Umar almost runs into knees more often than, some people out of his camp. And I think when you go back and watch Song Yadong's last few fights, he's actually thrown that knee and gotten very close to landing it right on the mark as well. I would watch out for that if I'm Umar Nurmagomedov. But realistically, Umar is so good at that timing drill, right? Throw a couple strikes, move back out into kickboxing range. And when you're dealing with a short and stocky guy like Song Yadong, you can kind of expect them to rely on closing the distance to land their shots. Like I said, Umar's really good with the long straight punches. Song Yadong's very good with the tight hooks and the uppercuts. He really likes to close distance, but that's an issue because Umar is so good at timing those shots, getting under them, and then finding his takedowns. And we know he's got a plethora of really nice takedowns that he can implement from going from striking right into grappling. On the feet, this is an interesting fight because Song, like I said, has great pressure. He knows how to land punches and bunches once he's got you backed up in a corner or he's able to, close that distance. Umar's probably going to have to skate around a little bit, keep him at bay. I would expect a lot of kicks out of Umar. Again, Team Khabib doesn't really have to worry about people catching kicks and taking them to the ground because that's exactly where they want the fight to take place. So I think Song is going to be the one that gets tagged coming in quite often because Umar will wait all day long. And while there's nothing going on up top, right? If there's no punches for me to land and there's no punches to be thrown and for me to get hit by, then we just do a little damage with the kicks, right? We'll kick the leg, we'll kick the body. Hell, we'll even see some spinning attacks from Umar. But then once you close that distance, he does always return fire as you're coming in. Sort of like, it's like a double car crash, right? Two people coming at the exact same time, and hopefully one of them will get the better of the exchange. Usually it's the guy with the longer punches, right? Because he just has, he's further out of range and he's able to catch you as you come in. And a guy like Song Yadong, he doesn't really throw combinations with a single lead hand, right? He loves to come in and it's a backhand to a lead hand, right? Most of the time it's hooks, and he does love to close the distance, but then he sort of gets into like a rock'em sock'em style situation. And that is really great for Umar because Umar is going to be dealing with a guy who's now more square with him. And if Song wants to land that backhand, the weight has to transfer to the lead leg, which means he's going to become more square. Now the torso's a bigger target for those kicks. The torso's a bigger target for the straight punches. So I'm really interested to see how the blitzes work for Song and how he's going to close the distance, because if he closes the distance with reckless abandon like we've seen in the past, and as the tail of the tape shows, he has 9 losses. So while it's against tough opposition, but he has the Song Yadong puzzle has been solved many times before, and Umar is probably really well conditioned for this. I know he's been out in China for a while, getting ready for this fight. So I think we're going to see some interesting blitzes. Song can certainly do a lot of damage, but Umar knows how to combat that and really meet you right in the middle to land in those exchanges.
Yeah, one of the things that sticks out with Umar is, unlike his brother Usman, who may or may not be coming to the UFC, he's kind of a decision merchant, right?
Yeah.
In the UFC, he's almost always winning by decision, and his only loss to Merab Dewalish, really the then champion, was a loss by decision as well. Song Yadong is definitely going to have the power advantage in this fight. Now, does he have the depth of striking tools that Umar has? I don't believe so.
No.
But I do believe that if somebody's getting knocked out in this fight, it's going to be Umar and not Song. So the question is going to be, how well does Song close the distance? Because Umar is really good. He throws that back push kick to the body very powerfully and very fast. And while that's not going to finish a fight, it does hurt. It does start to drain the gas tank, and it does disrupt the rhythm of the opponent that's trying to enter. Song's got good head movement. So he's, 55% striking defense it's not quite as good as Umar's, but that's still a very respectable striking defense, especially at bantamweight.
And for his style too, right? He doesn't, really take much caution when he's fighting. He likes to get in there and mix it up, whereas Umar really likes to stay back, stay on his back leg, utilize every square inch of the cage, and then strike with quality over quantity. Song just kind of goes out there and scraps with dudes, and to have a 55% striking defense, that's pretty impressive because Umar it really isn't in range to be hit near as much, and for their striking defense to only be that far apart and 6% is very interesting.
Yeah, and so where does Song have success with the striking? Umar actually is comfortable fighting on the outside. He'll move around, he'll fight on the outside. Song likes to pressure, and he's good when he gets you against the cage. When you're against the cage, you can't do the type of dynamic movement that Umar tends to do, and that kind of forces the range to happen in one that might be favorable to Song. So I think for Song, he really needs to walk down Umar intelligently, cage cut very intelligently, because Umar is a really dynamic mover. Now, the flip side of that, what's the problem with that? Well, he's got 2 losses in his last 4 fights, and those are to Petr Yan, the now champion, and Sugar Sean O'Malley. Yeah. And while both of those guys strike very differently than Umar, they have one thing in common. They throw a lot of volume. Yep. They're very hard to pin down. They move a lot, and they have a dynamic plethora of strikes, both with the kicks, the feints, the punches, and the knees and everything. And so he's kind of, that seems to be the Achilles heel for Song, is a really dynamic striker that can move, that's got good takedown defense. So that's a problem. Right now, Song looked really. There's one common opponent in 2026. Figgy has lost to both men this year.
Yeah.
Umar's was a decision. Song, it didn't seem like Figgy even wanted to be in there with Song when that fight happened, to be honest with you. He really did nothing in the fight. Song just walked him down, landed big strikes, and finished him with a guillotine. Now, Figgy missed weight for one of those five. I believe it was the Umar fight, so maybe was he trying to compromise? You know what? I'll give Umar a little bit of my purse so that I can have a little bit more gas and a little bit more ability to hang in there and fight, and that's why it went decision compared to the Song fight. I don't know. I don't really read too much into that doing the MMA math. But for me, I kind of am struggling in my head as to who to give the striking advantage to.
Okay.
But ultimately, I'm going to give the striking advantage to Umar because I think that he's got a bigger depth of tools that he can pull from. And Song does tend to have problems with dynamic strikers and with strikers that move a lot. And I think we're going to get a lot of that out of Umar. We're going to see a lot of push kicks. We're going to see that question mark kick to the head from the front leg. We're going to see a lot of ground covering with the straight punches. And for a guy that mostly likes to kind of walk you down and be methodical, I think he's going to be there to get hit by Umar. The one caveat I will say, though, is, if somebody's going to clip the other with a fight finishing strike, it will be Song. And we've seen Umar. No, he's never been finished, but we saw Beksad Almakhan, who's no longer in the UFC, knock him down in the first round. We saw Mario Bautista hit him with a big knee and knock him down. So Umar is susceptible to getting clipped, but he's never been he's never been clipped and then finished, right?
Right.
So it's kind of hard to think, okay, well, maybe Song's the guy to finish him. And 9 losses on the record for Song, as you brought up. So I do think that the striking advantage to me lies with Umar. Do you agree or disagree?
This is a tough one, right? Because it really can go either way. And if Song Yadong does wind up getting the advantage on the feet, he's going to make it look really nice. Like, his style is beautiful to watch if he's able to actually execute the techniques that he wants to and land those big punches. He's really fun to watch. And even when guys, change levels and shoot on him, he's pretty good at sprawling. Like, he's got obviously some good wrestling. I remember you were telling me that you saw some footage of him wrestling with Giorgio Poulos, and obviously Team Alpha Male. They were a wrestling heavy crew from a long time ago. I think that Song Yadong has better quantity and Umar has better quality and different unique takes on striking, but I just worry a little bit about Umar's setups for the big shots. I love a head kick. I love when there's some wild things going on, but fundamentals win fights. And I would really, if I were in Umar's corner, I would say, look, keep all of those cool techniques that you do, but set them up with something. We can't throw naked head kicks because at this level in the UFC, you're just not going to land them like you should. If he were to set those up with a couple of punches and then maybe a feint and then throw that head kick, I believe he would land more big shots on Song Yadong. But Song is really good at countering right off somebody's wrestling attempt, and as we all know, when it comes to wrestling, if you shoot one time, you've shot 0 times. And if you shoot twice, then you've shot once, right? It's all about a chain. Even the highest level wrestlers need to chain one shot into the next bit of wrestling. And it can be very confusing, but Song's really good at staying just out of range, has good heavy hips. He knows how to turn off on that angle. And then he actually fires back really well. So I'm going to give the striking advantage to Song Yadong, but with a caveat that if Umar keeps him away and outside of boxing range and maybe they stay in a kickboxing range, then I think Umar will actually make him miss a whole lot of shots. It'll probably screw up his statistics for his striking accuracy because, like I said, he's a shorter, hook-driven fighter. Think about like Mike Tyson, and I'm not comparing Song Yadong to Mike Tyson, but get inside, make it nasty, and make sure you're throwing with 100% power. That's one thing we know we're going to see out of Song Yadong. Umar is more like set traps, make you run into them, but I really think he would have way more success on the feet if he set those traps and then also threw a little bit of volume before he went with the devastating shots that he looks for. But at 20-1 or whatever his record is, he's obviously doing way more things right than he is wrong. So it's going to be a difficult fight for Song Yadong to control on the feet, but ultimately I do have to give Song this slight advantage on the feet.
Okay, so interesting. We're split on the striking.
Yeah.
Let's see how the grappling plays out. I feel like I know which way it's going to go, but
yeah, I don't think we're going to be split on this aspect.
let's look at the tail of the tape real quick for the grappling now before we get into the conversation. The glaring thing is that the takedown, and this is a per 15-minute average. Right now, this is going to be a 25-minute main event, but per 15 minutes, so you can just add 2 to this number for Umar. He's averaging 4 takedowns per fight. So if he's going in a 3-round fight, 15 minutes, that's more than 1 takedown on average per round. And we know that the Dagestani team has incredible top control. So once they get you down, it's, a lot of times you don't get back up. The takedown accuracy, very good at 46%, and obviously good takedown defense at 79%, but the submission average is very low at 0.2.
Right.
And then when you look at Song Yadong, actually an identical submission average. So even though he's not even throwing up 1 takedown attempt per fight, he still has the same submission average. So that shows you that, what I said in the first segment of the striking, Umar is a decision guy, right? Yeah. And so Song Yadong does have an opportunity over 25 minutes here to find a finish. Now, he's 41% accurate on his takedowns. Those numbers always go down when you're competing against somebody from Team Habib, so expect that to be lower. But he does have good takedown defense, almost as good as Umar's at 73%. So it's not as cut and dry, right? Umar is the consensus, like, okay, he's the better grappler than Song Yadong. That's where he needs to go to win this fight.
Sure.
But Song is a good grappler in his own right. He's got great takedown defense. He's got good wrestling. As we saw in his last fight, I know it was a 40-year-old Figgy, but he got the submission victory. He can submit. It was with the guillotine.
Yep.
If there's anything Team Alpha Male loves, it's a good old-fashioned guillotine.
That's right.
So, will he catch that on Umar? Probably not. What are your thoughts on the grappling aspects of this fight?
So I love Umar's ability to engage in a fight as long as he feels comfortable on the feet. But once he doesn't like what he's seeing, right? If he gets dropped by a knee, or with Begzat Almakhan drops him in the very first minute of the fight, he is very quick to finding his path to the ground, and not only getting his opponent to the ground, but getting to a top position. And just like you said, he's so good at staying in a top position. The transitions from dominant position to dominant position are so high level, not just out of Umar, but everybody on Team Habib. They're really good. Once they get to your back and they've got that body lock, they can make you carry their weight, which doesn't look like a lot. And maybe some people think it's not enough damage and it's not enough activity. But what that's doing, especially in a 5-round fight, is causing their legs to just get a little bit more tired, right? When you have to hold on to a guy who weighed in at 135, will be weighing about 155 on that night, and he's putting all of his weight on you, and now your legs are having to hold that up. While his arms are getting tired from the isometric hold, your legs are getting tired by carrying a 150-something pound man. So I really do love the scrambles and Umar's ability to just ride the wave and go from dominant position to dominant position. He's not the kind of guy where you're ever really going to see him jump to take the back and then fall over the top. He is very smart about, okay, there's an opportunity for me to get my hook in. Let's get one in. Oh, he defended that off. All right, we're not just going to jump on with reckless abandon like a backpack and try to get on this guy's back. He goes right back to the position A, which is right to the back, and he's holding the body lock from the backside. Very, very smart with how he does, what's the word? Progress when it comes to grappling positions. He does not just take dumb risks. He doesn't wind up falling to the back or ending up on bottom, right?
Very high percentage. He progresses intelligently is what you're saying.
Very intelligently. And I think Song, we've seen him taken down many times throughout his career. And like Mario Batista, great fighter. He wasn't really able to avoid the takedowns from Umar. And I would say Mario Batista is one of the most complete guys at 135. He's really good on the feet, really good at grappling. Hell, he was even able to, have some good moments in the grappling exchanges with Umar, but it was still a little bit too much, and that's why it was 30-27 across the board, even though he landed the more significant damage when they were on the feet. So Umar's ability to fight with urgency once he doesn't like what he's seeing on the feet, which I actually predict we will see. I think Song Yadong's going to wind up having some success on the feet, which is going to force Umar to change levels and shoot in and get the takedowns. And like I said, whether it's a body lock with some sort of leg trip inside or outside, or he grabs that single leg. Remember, this is going to be an open stance fight for the most part, and we just saw Islam Makhachev have a lot of success snatching up that single. I think that Umar is going to be able to read the pressure, find his opportunities to close that distance on the right timing and get under Song's punches. As long as he avoids that knee, I think he'll wind up getting Song to the ground pretty much in every single round. And look, at this stage in Umar's career, he needs to start finishing people. I don't know if he should maybe consider ground and pound a little bit heavier than looking for submissions once he gets him to the ground. The biggest thing for me when you're dealing with somebody and you're trying to keep them on the ground, the best way to kill any momentum they have at building a base is to put some heavy hands on their face, right? You start to land as soon as somebody, shrimps and bridges and you're on top of them and they're trying like hell to fight out from under you. Maybe they're a little sweaty, so they're getting the grace as far as, not having near as much traction and friction to deal with. As soon as they start making any progress, it's okay to leave one hand in control of their body and then rain blows down below on them. And I really do think if Umar had a little bit more of a striking mindset once he gets the fights to the ground, he would be able to stop that momentum that guys have when they're trying to build a base, when they're trying to defend submissions, when they're trying to defend things like hooks getting put in, body locks being put on. If you can just really start to hone in on the ground and pound, you can kill all of that momentum, because at the end of the day, Song Yadong is a human. You start to punch him in his face and everything that he was doing to build a base now gets put on the back burner and he's going to blocking the punches, right? You just can't wind up taking unanswered shots. It's not a good place. And if a referee's quick on the trigger to stop a fight, then, a couple big shots in a row, and then you could wind up losing the fight right there, even if you're fully coherent by the time the ref stops it. So I think Umar is going to have a significant grappling advantage over Song Yadong. And I think Song's pressure is going to be the reason he gets taken down multiple times in this fight. I would just suggest if Umar wants to get this fight finished and get out of the shadow of being a decision merchant, then he's got to come out there and get a little bit more aggressive, not just with his submission attempts, but with his ground and pound, because I think his ground and pound is maybe the one aspect of his game that we see the least. Once it's almost like he's in a kickboxing match and then it goes into a grappling match. And instead, let's just mix the martial arts.
Yeah.
Make sure you're striking when you're on the ground. Make sure you're giving them level changes to think about when you're on the feet. If you can confuse your opponent, you can freeze them. And when you've got an opponent frozen, all it takes is a fraction of a second to start to score your offense or score your takedowns or strikes or whatever it is. So I would just implore Umar to maybe look for a little bit more ground and pound. We know you can keep dominant positions on fighters, even skilled guys like Song Yadong. Get to that top position and then really start to make them pay for losing that position.
Yeah, and if Umar was just a very wrestling heavy guy, I would say that Song's got a pretty decent chance of keeping the grappling sort of neutral.
Okay.
But the thing that Umar does so well, and you mentioned it, is I think he does this even more so than Islam Makhachev does. Islam likes your off balances and your inside outside leg trips, but Umar will do this thing where he'll grapple.
Yeah.
He'll grapple and grab. I combined in the word grapple. He'll grab your waist and kind of lower his level a little bit and use outside and inside leg trips to kind of drag you down.
Yeah.
He does that really well. He's very good from the scramble. Even when he gets knocked down, when Beksad Almakhan knocked him down, he's really good on the ultra low single legs, very tenacious. Now, what's the bad side of that? He doesn't hold people down like Islam Makhachev does. Usually when Islam gets you down, we just saw with Ian Gary, it's kind of like he gets you down, gets to your back, that's a wrap for the round.
Right.
Ian had a little bit of success, but most of the time when Islam gets you down, that's it for the round. That's not the case with Umar. People do get back up when they're fighting Umar Nurmagomedov, and then he takes him down again. But it's not a foregone conclusion that if Song gets taken down, that he's going to be down for the entirety of the round. But the fact that Umar is going to initiate way more grappling offenses than Song is, the fact that Song is going to pressure forward with boxing, which is exactly the style that he's going to have success with on the feet, that could be the Achilles heel when it comes to the grappling, because Umar can time those level changes well, get inside and start to work either the single leg or the body lock to the trip takedown. He's got a wide variety that he can go to, which is why I'm going to give also the grappling advantage to Umar, because I think that grappling is going to play a larger factor in this fight for Umar than it is for Song. It'll be a win for Song if he can defend more than half of Umar's takedowns and make him pay for it on the exit, whereas Umar kind of needs grappling to make this fight the complete MMA fight that favors him to win it. And so I think he's going to use grappling more. I think that Song's going to show good takedown defense, but as you said, Team Habib, they don't shoot once. They shoot, they reshoot, and reshoot again until they get you down. And they're going to off balance you this way. You don't go that way. We're going back this way. You don't go that way. Well, I'm switching to this. Like, it's always some sort of progression that they're making to get their opponent to the ground. And I don't think Song will be able to hold up on all of those offenses. One of them is going to get him down. And that's, as you said, I would like to see some ground and pound out of Umar, but he's probably just going to try to progress to the back or progress to mount or something like that. So for me, grappling goes to Umar Nurmagomedov as well as the striking. Do you agree?
Yeah, and I really do love the fact that this is an open stance fight, right? So we're going to see that single leg attempt. I guarantee we see Umar change levels when Song comes in with a flurry of punches, grab that single leg. Probably what he does really well is pulls that leg, and then that sort of kills the balance, right? When you pull somebody's lead leg, now they're off balance, and you're kind of creating more distance between their feet, and then that creates like a posture reset. And that's, you pull that and then go straight to your body lock. And most of the time you can wind up taking that straight to the back. But if Song has sound enough defense with his hands, and maybe he sprawls a little bit and just makes it more of a dogfight for Umar, he's going to still wind up in a body lock position, which is exactly where Umar wants to take this fight. I think that's his highest percentage chance to get the fight to the ground, and then also not have to chain too extensively. I think the single to the body lock to a trip of some sort is the key to success to get Song down. Remember, this is 5 rounds too, so my intangible will actually come up. I think the fact that this is 5 rounds is an interesting one, so I'm gonna give you my thoughts on that. But
and so officially Umar for the grappling for you.
Yes, and by no surprise.
Okay, there we go. So we're in agreement on the grappling, disagreement on the striking.
Yep.
Let's round out the conversation with the intangibles. Now, the biggest one to me that sticks out is Umar being such a decision guy, and Song being dangerous on the feet. Umar does have a real threat in front of him for 25 minutes because he rarely gets his opponents out of there. Now, for Song, you have one loss on the record for Umar, which was a closely contested fight against who I believe is the best bantamweight fighter we've ever seen. Maybe Peter Yan is entering into that conversation, but for right now, for me, it's Merab Dvalishvili, and him and Umar had a close fight. Merab won; they got the right guy, but it was a close fight. That's the only L in his record. Song is 2-2 in his last 4, and the losses come at the hands of O'Malley and Petr Yan. And when you look at like Song, when he's just when you think he's like ready to step up and fight the best of the best and maybe solidify himself a title shot, that's usually when he loses a fight. And then, with Umar, he's made it all the way to a title fight. He fell short, but it was a close fight. The other thing that's interesting is the UFC really sees something in Song, because it was back in the end of May, if memory serves me, that he was headlining the Macau event against Davison, and now they're back in China already again before the summer's even over, and he's your headliner again. So they're building what is a massive market, over 1 billion people, and Asia has always been big fight fans, China, Japan, and the like. And so the fact that they're building 2 cards around Song Yadong, they're putting it on local time. I mean, it's off time for us. Like, this is prime time for China. It makes me feel like maybe the UFC is seeing something in this young man that maybe I haven't seen yet. Now, he looked good against Figgy, but Figgy's 40, right? This is the real test.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to Song Yadong when I say this, and I'm happy for the fact that he has now gotten 2 fight night main events over in his home country of China. But I think it's more over the UFC trying to grow as a company in China than trying to really push Song Yadong as the next champion or the first male champion to come from China.
And Wei Li's kind of MIA right now.
Right,
Dana was saying, even not to get off topic, but he was saying at the presser last weekend that he's like, we hope to get Wei Li back in action. It seems like, she's had some stuff going on. He didn't really get much into it, but hopefully we see her back. But that does make sense, because Song is your next biggest thing out of China.
Yeah, and so I look, again, I want to give him all the credit. You are one of the last 2 guys to walk out on a card in your home country. Nothing to be upset about. But I think they just want to they have the Apex out there, or the PI, I'm sorry, out in China now, and they're really trying to grow that stable. I think they had the Road to UFC China TV show, and I'm pretty sure that was a decent success for them, especially in that part of the world. But I think that Song Yadong is just a perfect fight night main event fighter. He's really a reliable source for an entertaining fight, right? The one thing as a UFC fight night goes on, it needs to crescendo, and then the main event needs to, be a reliable fight that is going to blow the hair off everybody. It's just like you go to a concert or anything, right? The biggest moment is the final moment, so everybody can leave with this awesome feeling, right? If the early prelims, if the best matchups are on the early prelims, people are like, all right, I don't really care so much about the main event. Song Yadong is must-see TV. He's very entertaining. And Umar Nurmagomedov, I mean, just that last name alone is royalty in mixed martial arts. So people are going to tune in when Umar's fighting. People in China are going to tune in when Song Yadong's fighting. I can't wait to see these two square out. But I do think that Song Yadong has his back against the wall with this one. We really need to see him win. If he goes 2-3 in his last 5, I think the days of him becoming a champion or even contending for a title are maybe over. He'll be at 23-10 if he loses to Umar. And Umar everybody knows he's got champion written all over him. Like, people, obviously bantamweight is stacked, and people see Islam having the success he's having. Khabib never lost, never bled in the cage. Umar has suffered a loss, right? And he has shown imperfection in his game. He has shown getting dropped by a debuter. He's been dropped by Mario Batista. He's had closer fights than people maybe expect out of a Nurmagomedov, but he's still an absolute killer and can be the best bantamweight in the world as long as he can get the right wins and obviously perform on the title fight night. But the intangible that I have for Umar versus Song is the cardio. So Song Yadong, he gets tired in fights, but that doesn't slow him down one bit. He leaves everything he's got in the cage. And if that's, overextending on punches and kind of losing your balance, very risky and not a good thing to do against a guy like Umar, who needs you to do that sort of stuff so he can come in on that pressure and take you down. But Song is never going to give up in a fight. He always shows up till the bitter end. Whether he's winning the fight or losing, he is throwing everything but the kitchen sink, or including the kitchen sink, at you. And even if he's on the ground on the bottom position, he still does scramble and fight like hell to get back up to his feet, where he then has the best chance. Umar Nurmagomedov, everybody knows that grappling is the most taxing thing you can do in MMA. It's so exhausting, not just defensively, right? When you have to deal with somebody and now your body's just constantly flinching and reacting, that's exhausting. But the guy that has to hold that guy down, that's even more exhausting. So Umar also is a kind of guy like Song where he doesn't leave much in the cage, but I do worry about his striking and the fact that everything he throws is so explosive and grandiose, right? It's a head kick. It's a huge spinning kick to the body. It's a push kick that is 100% thrown. When he throws his long punch combinations, it's usually a 1-2-3 or a 2-3-2, and 100% power is put behind those shots. And over the course of 5 rounds, that can actually really start to weigh on a guy, especially as your arms get tired from the isometric holds and the grappling positions you're trying to create. So I think if we see the championship rounds in this fight, which I predict we will, I think Song Yadong may come along and have some decent moments in rounds 4 and 5 because Umar he kind of gasses himself out. I don't know if, he's not built like Merab, the guy that beat him, right? Nobody's the machine like that, but he does wind up throwing really heavy shots. Also, he's a little bit hesitant, or not, hesitant might not even be the right word, but he's a little bit, he overthinks striking sometimes because he's been dropped, and it's smart, right? You don't want to get dropped in your fights, and anybody at 135 landing with the right punch or landing with the right kick or the right knee right up the middle as you go to close distance can put your lights out. So Umar enters with caution, and I think that that's a good thing, but it's a blessing and a curse. Sometimes that can be a detriment to you, and like I said, when you're flinching and reacting to somebody's strikes every time they do anything, and you have a lot of footwork incorporated in your game, you can tend to get more tired fast. So like I said, Song Yadong definitely comes out and he tries to go at you for the entire allotted time that he's given. Next weekend, it's going to be 25 minutes. And I predict for you that all the way till the final bell, he's going to be gunslinging, trying to take Umar's head off. If Umar doesn't conserve his energy in some of those grappling situations, I could see his legs getting a little tired, him becoming slightly more stationary, his striking volume going down significantly because, as I said, he's not a quantity striker. He's not a volume striker. He just likes to throw big shots. And the more tired you get, the tougher those laborious shots become to throw, and they're very telegraphed. So when you're not having much success, then you sort of just shell up and don't throw a whole lot of offense. You look for your takedowns. But again, wrestling's so exhausting. If he's too tired by the end of this fight to really get his offense on the feet going, then his shots may be a little bit more telegraphed. When you're not mixing the martial arts, the strikes go into the level change feints, and then you strike again, but this time the level change is not a feint. It's a live round, and you're going for a takedown. That stuff is exhausting, and I can't wait to see what round 4 and 5 look like. I hope we get it. I think we will get it, but I have a feeling Song Yadong's going to be a handful for as long as this fight lasts. But I am excited for this, and I am leaning towards Umar to get his hand raised.
Okay, so intangibles. Who are you giving the intangibles to?
So the intangibles, the cardio. I think that the man who controls the fight can control the pace, and if you can control the pace, then you can slow things down when you need to. And like I said, Umar loves to be in top control and position. And it's almost like a mental thing. If Umar is controlling you in a dominant position, then he can kind of dictate, okay, I don't need to scramble as much here. I don't need to do as much. Let me just kill his hips, kill his mobility. And you can sort of find your moments to breathe there. Whereas Song Yadong, if your back is on the ground, you are losing that situation and you have to get back up. So I guess intangibles I have to give to Umar because he will have more control on the grappling aspect, and I expect us to see a lot of grappling in this fight. But Song is going to bring everything he's got and then some. His back's against the wall, and Umar better come prepared and be ready to avoid some of those blitzes because they could get very dangerous.
Yeah, and for me, the biggest intangible is just performance against top-level competition. Umar, besides the Marab loss, he tends to beat everybody he's in. He does beat everybody he's in there with, and he's a very high-level mixed martial artist, and he's good anywhere the fight goes.
And even though it's decisions, it's kind of like 30-27 pretty much every time he is in a decision victory.
Yeah, I mean, the Bautista fight was closer, right? I mean, Mario had some moments in that fight. And,
still 30-27, though. Across the board.
Yeah, I think there should have been a 29-28 in the mix there, but I'd have to go back and watch the fight again. But Song Yadong, when he gets in there with really, really good movers, I keep coming back to how he fares against a certain style. And let's take away the last name Nurmagomedov, for example, for a moment, and just look at Umar as a striker.
Okay.
He's the exact type of striker that Song struggles against.
True.
Somebody who moves a lot, somebody who feints, somebody who controls range and distance. And then when your style is very much plotted, powerful, like
close
throw big shots,
land,
Umar and those guys, they kind of tend to get around those big shots.
True.
Now, can Song clip him? Yeah, if Bekzat Almakhan can drop him, Song can definitely drop him.
Yep.
If Mario can drop him, I think Mario's a better fighter than Song. But still, if Mario can land big shots against Umar, he can land big. So can Song.
Yeah.
Can Song grapple with him? Yes, he can. He can wrestle to the point, not that he's as good as Umar, but I think he can make it very challenging for Umar to get him down. But at the end of the day, the biggest intangible to me comes to who performs in the bigger moments.
Mm-hmm.
And while neither one of these guys have ever won a title, there's one guy that tends to do better when he's main evented, when he's in a bigger moment, when he's in a number one contenders fight, and that is Umar Nurmagomedov.
Okay.
And Song Yadong tends to lose when he gets up there against the elite level competition.
Yeah.
And I think the pressure forward style from Song is going to lend itself into him getting taken down more often than he normally does. So I am giving my intangibles as well to Umar Nurmagomedov. I think that this fight favors him stylistically.
Yeah.
That's a clean sweep for me. I'm giving all three to Umar. So no sense in holding on to my prediction any longer. I do believe he wins a fairly clear and decisive decision here.
Okay.
Song's a hard guy to get out of there. Umar is not a guy who finishes people. I mean, very low finish rate. So I think the decision is the right play here. I'm going 49-46. I think that Song finds a round where he has some success, maybe lands a big shot or two and steals a round. But overall, 4-1 for Umar is my final prediction.
Yeah, that's a great call. And I hinted at my prediction. I am also predicting Umar to win this fight. But Song's going to make it very interesting. And I think he's going to give Umar a lot of things to consider and think about. Song has a slight experience advantage. And we always know these guys who have more fights in the UFC or just more fights in general, they've got a couple tricks up their sleeve. And maybe a guy like Song has something planned for this stylistic matchup. Umar ultimately will get this fight to the ground in every single round, in my opinion. I don't see any situation where Song's style can avoid getting taken down. We see too many good takedown entries from Umar against all styles and against all body types, and Song really has to close distance to find his success, and I think that's exactly where the double-edged sword is, because Umar also will find his best success once Song does finally, bite down on his mouthpiece and close distance to land his big shots. I also see this going a decision like you. I think that it could wind up being a 48-47 just because I worry about those last two rounds for Umar. I know that what the style that he fights in exhausts everybody. You can't really, both offensively and defensively, the way he fights is just something that's taxing on the cardio, and nobody's built like Merab. So I think Song is going to wind up having slightly more gas, but I still ultimately don't think it's going to matter in rounds 4 and 5. I think Umar is going to do enough in the early rounds to slow Song down and then also be able to still hit his takedowns, even though they may be a little bit more laborious. But I do think Song is very good at defending submissions. He's very good at getting back up to his feet. So I think Umar's going to get him down, but I don't know if he's going to be able to keep him down, but he might be able to gas him out enough to where Song's offense on the feet isn't near as explosive. And once that kill shot and that power, single shot power from Song goes away, Umar has a lot less to worry about and deal with. So ultimately, I'm going to go Umar Nurmagomedov decision as well. I give the intangibles to him. But at the end of the day, this fight could really go either way. All it takes is one big shot off Song. And when you've got a guy who's on the cusp of being 2-3 in his last 5 fights, who still believes he can be the champion of the world, he's going to come out like a dog in a corner, and he's going to bring Umar the fight that I think Umar is expecting.
Yeah, well said. One more thing before we wrap. It's interesting because I agree with you. Umar throws every shot like super powerful, spinning back kicks, power kicks to the body, high head kicks, straight punches with a lot of oomph on them. But he does that's the disconnect, right? Because he doesn't finish people. So it's like he's throwing everything full bore. You think of like a Rod Tang, right?
Yeah.
That guy throws everything full clip as well, but he also starches people.
Yeah, and they land. And so that's the one thing. A great point. Umar Nurmagomedov throws with 100% power every time he throws a strike, pretty much. And you look, it does wind up gassing him out a little bit, but nothing is more exhausting, aside from offensive grappling in MMA, than missing strikes, constantly missing. And look, he throws that head kick up. It's usually pretty good. Usually the guys are able to block it with a high guard. But when he throws those big combinations and 100% power, sometimes he just misses the mark. And it's just like I always tell people, if you go work on a heavy bag, don't hit it at 100%. Don't have a land rate of 100% when you're hitting a heavy bag. Make sure every now and again you're missing, because what your body has to do to get yourself back to your fight stance is actually very exhausting if you whiff on a shot. So don't whiff. I think Umar would have more success if he did longer combinations. And because his style is so good on the ground and he doesn't really have to worry about people taking him down, he can extend those combinations, right? I would never suggest that Carlos Prates go out there and try to hit Islam Makhachev with a 6-punch combination unless you've got him hurt, because by the time that 4th or 5th one's in, Islam's now close enough to take you down. So
you're looking at the lights on the ceiling because you're being taken down at that point.
Exactly. But I think Umar, being such a high-level grappler and wanting that fight to get into kickboxing range, skip right past boxing range and get into dirty boxing or clinch range, that's exactly what he wants to do. I just say that maybe he extends those combinations a little bit more, and I think his big striking attacks will actually have more landing success.
There you go. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed this deep dive video, and we hope you enjoy all the other content. There's going to be a lot more coming your way this fight week. We're going to be live for the main card as always and doing an immediate recap thereafter. So make sure if you're not already, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification so you never miss a Barnhill Brothers drop or live stream or live chat or whatever it is we're doing. You'll be notified. Thank you so much for watching this. Have a wonderful week and enjoy the fights.
Peace.